It's not easy when you build as the revolutionary is going to be a troublemaker all the time. It's like a tolerance level. You end up going, how much more revolutionary can I be? I don't know, but I'm not going to talk about markets. If you've heard me talk before and I've talked to this group, I'm actually not. Thought I'd take the opportunity to do something else. And to the undercover journalists in the audience, Andy and Dave, I've been asked to be contentious. So if you want to quote me, that's fine. But I'm working to agree. I just want to give a few little anecdotes, and they might not seem to add up at the beginning, but I'll share with you how I think they connect. The first is, think back to 2008, when the Lehman Brothers crashed and the world started realising that there was something really pretty spectacular going on. But none of the economic journalists or economists had seen it coming, and they were caught on the hop. And I happened to be having a visit from my friend who had a daughter who was 6 at the time, Lily, and we were sitting, eating our beans on toast, watching the 6 o'clock news, and Robert Peston was on there trying to explain simultaneously how he didn't really know what was going on and nobody did, but here's a graph to tell you what we think is going on, and what he charted was this is how bad we think it's going to be, and if we're right, then it could take until 2017 to get back to the kind of levels we were at in 2004. And Lily just turned around and she went, why would we want to go back to 2004? Won't the same thing happen again? And I've literally never forgot it. She didn't know what he was talking about. He didn't know what he was talking about. We didn't know what he was talking about, but she saw that it was just nonsense. And she shared a wisdom that she didn't know was wise. And she'd done no economics at the age of 6. My second quote, this is a quote from someone whose work I hugely admire up in Gateshead, and he works in the council on public service reform, which he considers himself doing one citizen at a time. And this is a quote from some of what he's been digesting as his learning so far. He said, multiple small-scale actions and interventions are more effective and often better value than large-scale provision. Most of the specific things that help people are small and unspectacular. A coffee, a chat, a food shop while benefits were being processed, a bus pass to aid a job search, and just to get people out of the house. Some basic clothes. These things are much more than their materiality. They help to solve everyday problems in the short term, while building trust to create opportunities for long-term gains. They aren't commissionable and don't need assessing for. They came from decisions made by a core team based on the specific context of the person and their situation. This is what happens when our judgment is reclaimed from the front, by the front line from the boardroom. The third contexting quote, and we've already heard reference to Grenfell. I really think we should talk about Grenfell more than we do, but still. Grenfell, in particular for me, gives us a huge challenge to the fallacies that we've built around the idea of accountability and service delivery. There are over 120 contracts out on Grenfell Tower, and not one person or organisation who's yet taken responsibility for Grenfell Tower. And there was an amazing poem written by Ben Ockery shortly after it, which literally, this rings around my head in virtually all the conversations that we have, particularly in commissioning and procurement. He said, there is cladding everywhere, political cladding, economic cladding, intellectual cladding, things that look good but have no centre, have no heart, only moral padding. So 2 weeks ago, I had an experience on Twitter. I don't know if some of you do follow me on Twitter. It was a bit of a nightmare weekend. I was getting a toothache right down in the room. And I saw on Twitter a photograph of a room full of confinement booths that had been built, ceiling to floor, so that people could sit in the booth and not see anything but the wall ahead. And the headline told me this was a room in an English school, and that the children who are put in there for whole days because they wore the wrong shoes, or because they were 2 minutes late turning up. And so I was descended into a world that I knew nothing of before that moment, which is that there are over 500 schools who have isolation booth rooms built in, and that they are very proud of this as a management technique, and that there are armies. In the response to me putting that out, I then became immediately aware that there are parents who have taken their children out of schools to protect them from isolation and confinement for over 5 years, and I didn't know. But there were also a lot of teachers who feel very defensive and under onslaught by people thinking that this is a grotesque way to treat children. What that told me was there was no data, no research to tell me that that's wrong. I know that putting a small child in 7 hours confinement for a uniform breach is wrong, and the vast majority of people who reacted to it knew that too. But I'm up for, I don't know which of course there are people who think it's right. I want to have the debate with them. But something else happened. A whole load of people dove in and said, the problem here is that we don't have enough data to tell us if it's effective or not. That's what this problem is, and all of you are wrong. If you're in favour of it, you're just acting on impulse. You have no evidence, and if you're against it, you're just having a knee-jerk reaction. And that, for me, crystallised what a problem we have. It's a byproduct of the marketplace, but we have had our moral compasses outsourced to researchers. And there are some great researchers in this room. I love research for learning, but no researcher can tell me what's right or wrong. No research ever does very much more than to say what this situation needs is more research. So this narrative, it robs us of our truth, it persuades us we don't know anything ourselves, it redefines evidence as just data, and that's not true. It tells us we shouldn't trust our own feelings, our own moral beliefs, as if we don't know injustice when we see it, when we feel it, we experience it. So like slow boiling frogs in a pressure cooker of austerity, we've been encouraged to outsource our moral compasses to research. We have a plethora of what works centres, what works in PFI, and that was announced on the back of saying PFI doesn't work. We don't need to know what works, what we need to know is what's right, what's wrong, what helps, and what doesn't work, because we are at a point in time where we have to learn from our mistakes and not repeat them. So, I'm going to end with a quote from Gandhi. I don't know if you know that Gandhi had views on impact measurement. He said, "It's the action, not the fruit of the action, that's important. You have to do the right thing. It may not be in your power, may not be in your lifetime that there'll be any fruit, but that doesn't mean you stop doing the right thing. You may never know what results come from your action, but if you do nothing, there will be no result."